This is my testimony. So, hi you guys. It is Lonnie Love. I'm making my testimony video. I know it's been really long overdue. Some of you guys from TikTok have been asking about it, and now's the right time to talk about it. I know I've talked about it a little bit on TikTok, but I haven't really got like too in depth about it. So I wanted to get more in depth about what happened and how I turned my life to Christ, how I started walking with God. So when I was young, my mom, she grew us all up in church. So we all grew up in church, but we didn't really have a personal relationship with God or anything. We used to go to church and do a lot of activities and stuff. We prayed to God and things like that, but we didn't really know God personally. We just were just obedient to my mom at that time. And at that time when we were younger, my mom, she found Christ when we were kids, and she was learning about God herself, and she just literally taught us everything that she knew. So growing up, everything was good. We did a lot of religious things and stuff when it came to Christianity and God, but when I turned 18, I literally right after I turned 18, I started to slowly stray away from God. And I don't really even know how it just happened. It was just one day, I just started hanging around the wrong people, and I just was literally slowly straying away from God. So I'm going to be giving a lot of dates and ages and stuff, just so you can understand what happened in certain time frames. So from 18 to 22, from 18 to 22, that was just literally right after high school for me. I started to hang around the wrong people. I started to smoke weed and stuff, and at that time, I was just really just doing what everybody else was doing around me. The people that I was hanging around with, they were from a whole nother side of life that I did not grow up around, because when I was growing up, I was sheltered too. So it was just really something exciting for me at that time, and I was just desperate for acceptance. So I followed the wrong crowd of people, and I remember I would hang around people who were doing real drugs, hardcore drugs and stuff, and they were my age too, and some were even younger. And I was just literally straying away from God at that point. And then I started to get into dating and stuff like that. And I remember I had dated this one guy, and he was 1 year younger than me at that time, and he really broke my heart at that time. So I was 18 years old, and he really hurted my feelings and everything. And I was so depressed. I was so depressed at that time, because he had cheated on me or whatever, so to speak, and it just really hurted me so bad. So I don't know what happened that day, but that day, I looked at men differently from that point on. I looked at men as revenge after that. And I know a lot of young girls can relate to stuff like that, when you date someone and they so to speak break your heart, and you start to be hard-hearted about things. So after that day, I just grew a deep hatred about guys, men or boys or whatever. So I remember I had ran across this YouTube video on my YouTube at that time. I was 18, and there was this guy, and he was talking about the laws of attraction and how to manipulate men to get things out of them and get what you want from them and stuff like that. And an 18-year-old person like me, I was really intrigued about it, because he was giving you he was teaching you on how to manipulate and stuff like that. So that was really really intriguing to me at that time. And so I started to get more and more into that, and I would look up stuff like that religiously with that particular YouTuber. I was studying things, and I just had a deep hatred in my heart, and I wanted to get back by manipulating men and stuff, and I was really hurting myself. Like, I was not getting no fulfillment out of doing what I was doing, but I felt like I had some sense of like power for doing it. So from 18, after that guy had broke my heart, from 18 to 22, I was, you know, talking to guys, even dating guys and manipulating them. Like, it was really bad. Like, and it was really triggered from that one person when I was 18, and I just started to be just heartless, like with situations with guys. Like, I didn't even like feel bad for the stuff that I was doing at that time, and I was nowhere near close with God at all. So I was doing a lot of like manipulation. I was looking into zodiac signs with different guys that I was dating. I was going like in depth with stuff like that, and just doing a lot of sorcery. And if you guys don't know what sorcery is, it's basically like any form of witchcraft. So like, you know, new age spirituality, or astrology, or manipulation, anything like that you are trying to control a narrative, that falls under the line of sorcery. So I was basically doing stuff like that. And I know there's a Bible scripture in the Bible, and it talks about like you reap what you sow. So basically from 18 to 22, I was doing stuff like that. And when I turned 22, I met a guy, and I didn't even meet the guy. Like, he met me, and he was 7 years older than me at that time. And actually he knew me before I was 22. He had seen me in a library like 2 years before, but I didn't know who he was. So when I turned 22, I had met this guy, and he was 7 years older than me. And one day I was on Snapchat, and I had posted on my Snapchat, I was like, I'm bored and I want to like hang out with somebody who wants to like hang out. And I remember this person, he had like slid up on my Snapchat, and he said like he wanted to hang out. So we ended up going to like this jazz festival or whatever, and we went there. And even though I was far away from God, like when I met this guy, like just his presence was very dark. I can't even really explain it, but like when I first met him, like his aura was like so dark, but I didn't understand like what that was. I was really far away from God, so like the fact that I even felt that presence was kind of interesting, but I didn't really know how to pinpoint it. I just knew that when I first met him, like his whole presence was just dark. And we were like at this jazz place, and it was just something mysterious and dark about him, but I didn't really know how to pinpoint it. I didn't even know it was like it was like the presence was demonic or anything. Like, I just was interested in seeing, like, you know, I was curious basically. So, you know, we started talking and stuff, and you know, we started hanging out and stuff like almost every day, and we would just like hang out and stuff and get to know each other. And, you know, eventually like he, you know, wanted to, you know, like date me and stuff like that. So we started dating, and the whole relationship, like his presence was just always dark, and I couldn't really understand until, you know, fast forward, I'll get more deeper into that. But he was a very mysterious person, and I think the reason why I stayed with him was because like there was a lot of things like that I wanted to know more about him, because he was so like reserved with a lot of information. And so basically we started dating, and you know, he smoked, he drank and stuff like that. He just had a lot of stuff going on. He was doing a lot of bad things, and he really wanted me to do those things with him. And like it came to a point that we would clash a lot, because I was with him for 2 years, and we would clash a lot because like there were a lot of things that I just was not comfortable with, and he would keep pressing me about them. I personally did not want to like sleep with him or anything like in our relationship, because like I wanted to like wait about that and stuff like that. And he was just so adamant about it, so we ended up doing that. So basically I would drink with him, I would, you know, smoke with him, and you know, we were, you know, having intercourse basically. So I was just noticing that I had no relationship with God at that point. I just didn't feel like I knew God at all. But like if I had an emergency or something, like, or I needed to pray to God, like I knew how to pray to God for something I needed, but I was just basically using God at that point. So you know, more and more in our relationship, things were going well in the beginning. He was still trying to like pull me away and like manipulate me with stuff. He was very good at manipulating. And I think I told y'all previously, like, you know, you reap what you sow. So like I basically got back what I was doing to other men in the past, and he was doing it to me. So he was very manipulative. There came a point where I had found out like he was cheating on me and stuff, and it really broke my heart. It hurted me really bad. He just, you know, we would go and travel, like, you know, we would like, you know, go travel out the country or something, and he just really wanted me to like just get sloppy drunk. Like he just really wanted me to do that. He just really wanted me to like get as high and drunk as he was, and I could never like fulfill what he wanted. And also I had told him, like, you know, because like about the drinking, like my dad was an alcoholic, so I would tell him like, you know, I can't drink too much because I don't want to be like my father or anything. And he would say okay and stuff, but he would still persuade me to, or peer pressure me into drinking and everything like that. So there was you know, a point in time where, you know, and I feel like God was really distancing us at a point of time in the relationship. Towards the end of the relationship, we would try to hang out and we couldn't hang out. Like I just was so far away from God. Like I was starting to dress like just weird. Like I'm not the type of person that like, you know, dress like thotty or nothing, but like that's how I was like more geared. He was gearing me towards that direction. He was just really trying to mold me into this like doll that he wanted to just take advantage of and use to his own advantage. And I was slowly going in that direction of like him just painting me up into like somebody that he wanted, like just to like manipulate or have like to just have like as a toy or something. So I was noticing like I was just not myself. Like I was starting to like be what I seen on social media. I was starting to be like somebody that I'm not. I was like so like my mindset was so different. It was just about like just getting money and, you know, having that like Instagram lifestyle with this person. And I knew it wasn't me, but like that's just the route that I was going down, and I did not like it, but I just stayed doing it because, you know, he was influencing me to do it because he wanted that lifestyle look too. And you know, there was a point in time where we were just like, we were slowly not talking and hanging out as much, and I felt like literally that was God like just separating us. And but we kept trying to make it work towards the end of the relationship. So, you know, one day I went to go hang out at his house after work because I had a salon literally like 5 minutes from his house. And after work, I went to go hang out with him, and I went to go chill at his house. And he was a manager at a dispensary. So he was like, he managed the dispensary for like, you know, marijuana and stuff like that. So one day he comes home at his apartment and he's like, hey, like, you know, try these like edibles. Like, I want you to try these edibles. And I told him, because I just didn't want to do it. And I told him, I was like, you know, I don't really want to do that. Like, I have so much to do today. Like, I don't want to like take that. Like, so basically he was just like, you know, persuading me to take it, and I didn't want to take it. And he ended up like playing with me, like tickling me to take the edible. So that's what had happened. I spit out half of it because it was like a cookie, and I split. I didn't eat the whole thing. And after he seen that I didn't eat the whole thing, he seen it and he was like, you know, take the whole thing or whatever. So he manipulated me to take the whole thing. And mind y'all, he was very manipulative. Like, I can't even put it into words. Like, I've never met anybody like that. he just knew how to manipulate a lot of situations, not even just with me, but just with his whole entire life. He just knew how to manipulate. So I ended up taking it by pressure. And like, I was on the phone with my dad before he had gave me that edible, and then literally like my mom had called me like 10 minutes after I took the edible. So at this point I took the whole edible, and I don't know how many milligrams it was. I don't know like all that stuff or anything like that, but he had or after like 10 minutes, my mom had called me, and my mom was like, hey, like, can you come home to the house? Like, I need you to do something real quick. And I said, okay. So I told him, I'm like, I'll be right back. Like, I'm gonna go help my mom or whatever. And he's like, okay. So I get in the car, I'm driving to the house. We lived 10 minutes from his house. My mom, she had called me and she told me to come to the house. So I got in the car and I was driving to the house, and I normally take like the regular way to get home, but unfortunately, like, there was a car accident right there where I normally go to go home, and I'm like, dang, like, I gotta go another way. And I'm starting to notice in the car, like, while I'm driving, like, I'm starting to notice that like it's uncomfortable to drive. So I'm like, dang, I can barely drive. And I got so scared that like I called my mom, and I'm telling her, I'm like, hey, I'm still, like, I'm on my way home. And she's like, okay, like, I know you're coming. And she didn't know like what I just did. Like, I just took an edible, but she didn't know that. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm on my way. And I had to take a detour to get home. And I'm noticing like when I'm in the car, I'm like 2 minutes from the house, I just literally just start laughing in the car while I'm driving. And I'm like, what in the world am I laughing about? Like, in my mind, I'm thinking like, I have no reason to be laughing this hard. Like, I'm just trying to get home. So like, that was so weird to me. And then I ended up, like, soon as I pulled into the parking lot or into the driveway of our house, I turned the car off, and like I'm just sitting there like I'm about to like open the door. Like, I'm about to like open the door and get out. And as soon as I turned the car off and I'm literally like taking off my seatbelt, trying to take off my seatbelt and get out the car, I just froze. Like, I just literally froze and I could not move. And I'm sitting there in the car, like, trying to move, and I could not move at all. Like, I couldn't move my body. And now my mind's just like running rampant. Like, it's just like, what the heck is going on? Like, I'm trying to move my body, and I literally was just sitting there like stuck in the car. And my life just started flashing before me. Like, everything in my life just started replaying in my head at this point, because I could not move. And it wasn't like I was thinking about my life. Like, no, like, my life started flashing before my eyes. Like, I started thinking about everything that happened in life and everything that happened that people warned me about. I started to think about those things. Like, they were playing in my head, like all the warnings in life that people think about, like, or whatever. Like, I started thinking about everything that I did in the past, all the bad things that I did. Like, stuff started to replay in my head, and things started to replay in my head that people warned me about, and I still chose the opposite way. And I'm sitting there in my car, mind you, I can't move, but my mind is going crazy. Like, I'm thinking about everything, and I get this like sharp pain in my head. And this pain, like, when I tell people this testimony, like, it felt like no pain on earth feels worse. Like, I tell people to like write every single painful thing on a piece of paper that you can like imagine that's painful on earth, and times it by infinity. Like, that's the pain that I felt like in my brain, like in my head. And I couldn't move. I felt this pain, and I'm trying to move, and I'm like trying to get out of like what I'm in right now, and I could not move my body. And the pain was so bad that like I wanted to like off myself. Like, that's how bad it felt. And I literally felt like I was about to die. Like, that's how I felt. I felt like when we watch movies and we see people when they're like leaving, everything starts to replay in their head. Like, that's exactly what happened to me. And the enemy starts coming in my head, and he starts telling me like, you want to make this pain go away, off yourself. So he's telling me that in my head, y'all. And then literally after he said that, like, I was able to move. So literally after he told me to like look for something in the car to kill myself, I don't even know if I can say that word, but like off myself, he lets me move, and I'm able to look in the car. Like, I'm literally searching in the car for something to off myself to make this head pain go away. And it was so strong. Like, that pain was so strong. Like you rather somebody like set you on fire. Like, I would rather somebody right now to set me on fire, and I will sit here and like just endure the pain. Like, that pain hurts nothing like this pain, this eternal torment that you feel in here, like that you feel here. And so the enemy says that to me in my head, and I'm starting to like look around like for something sharp and to cut my wrist or my neck, because I'm trying to make this pain go away. And mind you, I've never, my whole years of living, I've never had any, you know, thoughts or wanting to off myself ever in my life, like ever. So this literally came out of nowhere. So I'm looking in the car, like trying to find something. I couldn't find anything. And then I got back froze again, and everything just kept replaying. Like, all the thoughts in my head kept replaying. So like the pain that I was feeling, like it kept going this whole experience. So I want you guys to keep that in mind. The pain that I was telling y'all about, that it felt like every single painful thing on earth times it by infinity. That's what I was feeling this whole entire encounter, this whole entire time. So I really want you guys to keep that in mind and really like keep that in your head. So I wasn't able to find anything to off myself in the car. I ended up being back like stiff again in the car, and I'm trying to figure out how to get out the car, like, because I could not get out the car. I could not move anymore again. So I ended up trying to outthink all the thoughts that was in my head. Like, I tried to outthink it, and I just started just saying Jesus, like, just over and over and over and over and over. And once I said that, like, I was able to get out the car. So I just kept saying it over and over, just shouting it, and then I was able to move. And I ended up moving, getting out the car, running in the house. I ran to my mom. I was like taking my clothes off, like running to my mom, and I told her to like pray for me and stuff. I was like, Mommy, like, just pray for me. Like, she started praying for me. She started playing worship music and everything, and just really trying to figure out what was going on with me. And throughout all of that, I'm trying to tell her what happened, but I couldn't have it come out in words. Like, I could not tell her physically what was going on because it was not coming out. And I remember, like, she was so scared, like, but she like kept it strong. Like, I was telling her, like, please call an ambulance or something, like, you know. And like, she never called or anything, but she was just so scared. But she knew, like, she was definitely a champ to like not show any fear, because I didn't even know like she was scared. Like, I felt she was, but I couldn't see it in her. But so I'm going through all the torment that I told y'all that happened in the car. I'm still going through that. I'm still going through that pain. So my mom, she started praying for me and everything. She was playing worship music. She was just a trooper. And I'm trying to explain to her what was going on, but I couldn't like get it out in words. Like, I could not like say it. Like, and like, I knew she was fearful because she had no clue what was going on. I couldn't tell her, like, I couldn't get it out. So I'm still going through that pain that I told you guys what happened in the car. Like, I'm still going through that torment in my head, like what had happened in the car. Like, this whole, mind y'all, this whole encounter, like, I'm still experiencing that pain, and it was so painful. Like, it was just so painful, beyond human, like beyond world pain. Like, any pain in the world, it doesn't feel like that. It did not feel like that. And as my mom's still praying and everything and worshiping and everything, the enemy's just coming in my head just so much. And he's literally telling me like that I'm going to, like, you know, be unalived. Like, I'm not going to be alive anymore. Like, just all of this evil stuff. He's just coming in my mind so strong. Just everything. Like, this was all at one time. So I'm hearing the enemy putting intrusive thoughts in my head. I'm hearing the enemy putting blasphemous thoughts in my head. I'm hearing the enemy putting all of these questions. All I hear is all like questions that us humans want to know about God, like contradicting questions about God and stuff like that. I'm hearing all of this stuff, and it's just like so many questions and so many just evil things playing in my head. And it was just like, it wasn't like one at a time, it was just multiple of them, and it was so just wicked. Like I could not have a clear state of mind. So I'm going through all of that all on top of each other, and it's happening like in loops. So like this whole encounter lasted for like 6 hours, and I was going through all of this for 6 hours, the pain, the thoughts, and everything. And it had lasted for 6 hours, and it kept lasting like in loops. So it would go like different cycles. It kept doing this over and over and over and over and over. And I'm literally like in my mind, like throughout this whole encounter, like I'm still trying to think, and I couldn't even like all the way think, but I just kept praying to God, like, God, if you take me out of this, whatever this is, like I promise, like I'm going to break up with my ex, like I'm going to turn my life around. Like I was literally trying to think those thoughts in my head, like, God, please, like save me, because like I feel like I'm about to die. Like, and that's literally how I felt. Like I felt like this was the end. Like, and I was just so disappointed, because there was a lot of times that I was warned about things and I didn't choose to listen. So I'm going through all this stuff that I keep telling you guys over and over, and I'm really telling you guys because I really want you to pay attention and just really hear me out. So I'm going through all of that, and after a while, through one of the loops that I had, like I started to experience my body, not my body, but my soul, or my spirit, my soul, just ascend up into the air, like into the atmosphere. So my soul started to leave my body, and I started to just go into this unseen spiritual place. And I ended up ascending up into this place. And when I got there, it was a very dark place, and there wasn't human bodies there. It was other souls there, like me. Like it was just literally like spiritual. Like you couldn't see it in the visual eye. You could only see this spiritual. And it was other souls where I was. It was like this sitting place. And there were other people there, but they weren't in a physical body. Like this was spiritual. They were like a floating soul. That's the only way I can kind of explain it. And I remember I'm sitting up there. I'm going through that trauma, that eternal torment that I'm telling y'all, that I keep telling you guys about. I'm going through that on top of everything. So I'm in this unseen realm, and I'm going through that eternal torment still. And I hear other people there. I see other souls there that are no longer living anymore. I see them there, and I hear them, and I hear so many of them like from afar. Like there's so many like people there that were no longer living, and they were saying like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this stuff was real. Like I didn't know God was real for real. Like how do you get out of here? Like this pain is so bad. Like you just hear all of these people crying out to God, and they're really like trying to figure things out. Like where are they? Like how did they get here? And I remember I was sitting there, and I was so like disappointed with myself. Like I was like, wow, like I thought, like because I grew up in church, like I thought I was gonna go to like heaven, you know what I'm saying? Like I thought I was gonna go there, and to see that my body did not go where I thought it was gonna go, like I was so confused. And I was dealing with the same pain that everybody else there was experiencing, and they were trying to get out of this place too. Like in their minds were still thinking wicked in this unseen place, like in this spiritual place. Where their soul was resting at, or not resting, but where their soul was. And they're still thinking wicked and stuff here while they're crying out to God. Like their hearts, before they ended up leaving earth, was filled with wickedness, filled with, sin. And I just realized that I was so disappointed with myself. Like I was so salty that I ended up there, because I thought I was going to go like to heaven. And the place was like, it was a dark place. It was very hot, and like you couldn't get out. Like there's no way to get out. Like your life's over with. Like there's no trial. Like you can't take another time and try to live over again. Like it's too late. And I remember realizing that, and I was like, oh my God, like I thought, like I would have never thought I would have died this young. Like I didn't even get to live my life yet. Like, and I'm thinking like, dang, I wish I never got to that relationship. I wish I just never did everything that I did. And I was so like disappointed that like I would have left early and not been able to have a chance of eternal life when I should have listened. So I'm in this this spiritual place, and I believe it's called Hades. And I didn't know anything about that at that time or anything, but I remember I'm there, and I'm so disappointed. I'm thinking my life's over. I'm thinking about my family, like what are they gonna think? Like they're gonna be so disappointed seeing me leave this earth. So eventually I was only there, I can imagine, maybe like 5 minutes. That's the only like time span I can imagine. It wasn't that long. I'm not sure the exact time though, but it felt like 5 minutes. So I started to descend back into my body, and I had tried to explain to my mom what had happened, and I could not get it out in words. It was just too spiritual for me to explain. And literally this happened like a year ago, and it took me months. And I know you guys have been asking like when are you going to talk about your testimony? Like I know you guys have been asking about that. It was because I couldn't put it out any sooner, because it took time for me to really realize what had happened. It was so much just to even talk about and say. It was so overwhelming to explain. So as I descended back into my body, I tried to explain to my mom what was happening, but I could not talk. Like I was just crying. I could not talk and explain anything. And this had happened 3 times, this whole ascending and descending situation. And every time I came back into my body again, I went to go hug my mom. And instantly when I would hug my mom, like God showed me a vision of his presence, and he allowed me to experience the presence of him, the presence of God. And it was just like this huge, just gigantic white pure space of existence. I don't really know how to explain it, but it was just this pure presence, and it felt so peaceful. It was just so, how it felt, you want to like how in the Bible it talks about like the kingdom of heaven, what the parables about the kingdom of heaven and what the kingdom of heaven is like. And one of the parables, it talks about the kingdom of heaven is like when you find a treasure and you hide it, and you go back and sell everything that you have to get that treasure. That's exactly what like when the Bible is talking about that stuff, that's exactly what it is. Like that's exactly what it felt like when God had allowed me to experience his presence after coming down from that situation. I wanted to not come back to like reality. Like I wanted to stay in that pure presence that God showed me coming down from that terrible hell or Hades experience. I wanted to stay in that presence. And it was just so peaceful. And I tell people when I talk about this, like I tell them that like that feeling of being in God's presence feels nothing like nothing on this earth. Feel like you can plan your perfect day, write down the perfect day that you think will make you happy, and it will not make you nowhere near as happy as experiencing the presence of God. And it's such a treasure to experience that. And I also tell people like any drug that you take will never feel like this presence. No amount of sex that you can have, the best sex you can ever think of in your head, will never be like this presence of God. Like it doesn't feel like that. And it's like I see why God really tries to protect us in not doing certain things, because we will never get fulfillment doing anything in the world. We're going to keep chasing because our flesh has desires that can never be reached on earth. Like our desires really come from God. And that was like the best desire to ever feel, was that presence of God. Like the words that I'm even saying right now, like these words that I'm trying to explain to you are nothing like the actual thing. Like, I'm not even telling you, I can't even tell you fully how it felt because I don't have enough human words to tell you. So that feeling when I was feeling the presence of God after coming down from that hell Hades situation was so peaceful. It was so peaceful, and it was like I knew God was with me through all of this chaos when the enemy was trying to torment me and everything. So after I came down from the presence of God, I would go back up into this unseen dark Hades hell place, and then I would go back into my body again, and I would experience the presence of God. It happened 3 times, and then after that, like my mom, she had called our pastor at the time, and her daughter had came to like just worship in the house and started praying and praising in the house and stuff like that. And I remember seeing her through this whole situation, and eventually I was starting to come down from what everything that was going on, and the pain was getting less and less. I was starting to just get more back into like reality of my body at this point. And I remember I wasn't talking the whole time. I was trying to talk, but I could not get the words out. And the enemy was coming in my head so strong, y'all, like so strong. He was telling me like, and this is kind of why I kind of waited to tell my testimony, because a lot of times the enemy tries to stop things and stuff like that. Like the enemy was telling me like, if I tell my testimony, people aren't going to believe me. They're going to think I'm crazy. Like they're going to think I'm insane, and like that I would be put in a crazy house or something for what I experienced. And he told me like, the enemy had told me like, you shouldn't talk or anything about it. Like, don't talk or anything. You're going to be crazy. Like, no one's going to listen to you. No one's going to hear you. The message that you have is never going to reach nobody. Like, he was just coming in my head strong. And so eventually I couldn't talk for days. Like, it was so hard. I couldn't talk for days. And I remember like, that shout out to my sister in Christ, Ontaria, but she had told me like that because I couldn't tell for myself because I wasn't able to see it. But she was telling me that I was having seizures and everything throughout this whole situation. And I just had so much. So like, the next day I had so much anxiety. So much anxiety. It was so bad. I didn't even want to drive. I didn't even want to do anything. I didn't want to talk to anybody. It was so hard to start talking. Every single day after that point for 3 months, like, it was so hard to communicate with people because I was so, like, it was just a big thing. And I couldn't really communicate. So then after that first day after, everything had happened, I literally ran to God. Like, I literally ran to Christ. Like, I was so scared that it just shocked me. Like, everything just shocked me. And I literally, like, I was like, okay, I can't do nothing. Like, I'm going to have to break up with my ex. Like, I can't stay in this situation. Like, after that day, my mind just started to get renewed. Like, slowly started to get renewed. And I ended up breaking up with that ex that I was dating. And I really didn't want to, and I was so scared to do it. And I prayed to God. I was like, God, if he calls me right now, like, I'm just going to break up with him. And I ended up breaking up with him. And he had, when he asked me like what had happened and everything, that day, I told him what happened. And he basically told me like, well, I'm sorry that you took the edible. Maybe if you didn't take the edible, like, you wouldn't have like experienced what you experienced. And he was just telling me like everything that I experienced was not real. Like, he was just telling me like things like that. And I just knew at that point, like, he's not sent from God. Like, I just need to break it. I just need to cut it off. And like, I really drew close to God at that point. I literally ran to God, like literally, like, I wanted to figure out, okay, well, since I don't have a relationship with God, like, let me start doing it now. Like, And I started drawing close to God, and the more I drew close to God, the more attacks I got, the more spiritual warfare I got. I had spiritual warfare for like 3 months, and it was so bad. Like, it was like torment, torture, like my mind, like a lot of things in my mind. I remember one day I was driving, I could not even drive. Like, I had to pull over and just start worshiping God, just to break everything that was just trying to come at me spiritually. Like, it was so heavy. The enemy really did not want me to get out of that situation. And I just literally I knew that God was going to heal me from everything. I forgot to mention, I was also for 3 months, I had schizophrenia too. And it was so bad. Like, I'm literally like doing things, it would tell me like, oh, go look outside the window, somebody's watching you. Like, it was just all this evil stuff in my head for 3 months. And I knew that I could not live with that for the rest of my life. I was like, there's no way, I can't live like this. Like, I know God did not create me to deal with that. Like, I knew he could not. And I had so much faith. Like, even though like I couldn't see anything, I had so much faith that he was going to heal me from all of this stuff that I was going through in my head. And I didn't know how, but I knew he was going to do it. So I was like, okay, I need to, every single day, like, I would read the word every day. I would pray to God every single day. And I would worship God every single day through all of the whirlwind I was going through in my mind. All of this, the anxiety, the schizophrenia, all of that stuff, I was still forcing and breaking through everything that I was going through. And I remember one day, like, God just put it on my heart. Like, he just told me, like, it's time for you to get saved. And I thought I was saved like when I was young, because like I was little when I wanted to get saved, and I got baptized when I was like 8, but I really didn't know anything. Like, I didn't know about God for real. So I rededicated my life to Christ because I knew the right way. Like, I made the choice. I really knew what I was getting myself into. And I remember one day God was telling me, like, it's time for you to like seek deliverance. And right before I started seeking deliverance, like, I was in the car after church one day. One of my like acquaintances at that time, he invited me to church. And I remember when I was at church, I could not hear what they was talking about. Like, I was hearing so many thoughts in my head that it was so hard for me to stay focused. I couldn't even worship in church. Like, it was so hard. And I'm like, this is not normal. I've never experienced this in my life. And I'm standing there like trying to worship, and I just couldn't. All of these thoughts in my head, I have no clue what they was talking about at church. Like, I did not know. Like, I had no clue. Like, I didn't know nothing. And I remember I'm driving back home because the church was like 40 minutes from my house, and I'm listening to worship music on the way home, trying to worship God. And I'm just really forcing it. Like, at this point, I'm just trying to get a breakthrough. And I knew God could do it, but I couldn't see nothing. Like, I couldn't see anything. And I'm just crying in the car on the way home. Like, my mind's just going crazy. And, God's just telling me, he's just putting it on my heart. He's like, it's time to seek deliverance. And the next day I messaged our family pastor at that time. And I told her, like, can you please like do deliverance? I'm ready for deliverance. And, she called me on the phone. We did like a Zoom call. And it was just really heavy on my heart to just be honest with her. And this is why I always suggest, like, if you're trying to get a breakthrough, you need to be honest. You need to expose everything, even things that nobody knows about that you've done. Like, you need to get it out, because the enemy wants you to keep it dormant so he can keep it in there so it can keep building up. And y'all, like, I needed a breakthrough so bad. I was so honest with her. Like, I told her everything that I can think of that I did that was wrong. Like, because I knew, like, if I keep stuff in, like, I'm not going to get any help. Like, I told her things that nobody knew. Like, and I'm so grateful that she was, just listening and just, being obedient through God, like, helping me. And I was just so honest with her. At that time, I was getting like, I broke up with my ex, but also, I forgot to mention to you guys, he would also like persuade me into homosexuality and stuff. And I would tell him, like, this is a route that I don't want to go. And he kept like pressuring me about things like that. So I was getting thoughts about that stuff. And I just really was just honest with my pastor at that time. And I told her, like, I just need to be set free. And after that, after I exposed everything that was going on in my life, and I fasted for 3 days, literally everything went away. Like everything, after 3 days, everything went away. And it was so crazy because, you know, when you're first coming to Christ, it's hard to read the Bible. You don't really understand it like that. But when I did that fast for 3 days after my deliverance session with her, then she literally just listened to everything I had to say and prayed over me. And then I went into fasting, and I fasted for those 3 days. And I'm telling you, like, I can read the word and understand it crispy, like just understand it. And all of the schizophrenia, the anxiety, the thoughts, and the even the sexual thoughts and stuff that I was having went away and left. Like it just disappeared. And after that, like, I just really just stayed committed with God. Like I just really kept walking with God. I knew from the beginning that he was going to be able to heal me, but I just didn't know how. And that's how I got like set free from everything that I had did in my past and everything with that individual that I was dating. And I knew God wanted to use me as a vessel to tell this testimony, to help believers and unbelievers who don't think that God is real, or even believers who you think God is real because you grew up in church, but you don't really have proof that God is real. So you're just like going with emotions, but you're not really walking with Christ for real. God is definitely real. The devil is definitely real. Jesus is definitely real. Like all of this stuff is real. And we have the choice to choose if we want to follow God or not. And I suggest, like, to even people who are like lukewarm right now, or you just don't know how to come to him. Like when I needed help, like I had asked God to help me. Actually, it was the day before I ate the edible. I prayed to God and I told him, I said, God, help me. And that was literally all I said. I said those 3 words. I know that God wanted to use me to spread this message to help other believers and non-believers, or even people who's just curious and they're tired of living that lifestyle. And honestly, when you live in the world, like, you're not getting any fulfillment. Like, you're really not. Like, you're really hurting and destroying yourself. I was literally destroying my own self. Like, I was fulfilling my flesh, and our flesh never gets tired. Like, it never gets tired. And I was just doing everything that I thought would give me fulfillment, and it really didn't. It was just like a short temporary high that you have to keep chasing, and you got to destroy yourself to chase that high. So I'm so grateful that God like renewed my mind and stuff. And even in my journey now, like, of course, you know, when you're walking with God, you get attacked by the enemy. But the more and more you get stronger with God, like those attacks, when you put on your full armor of God, like those attacks are nothing. And so I eventually, I ended up in July of 2022, I ended up getting baptized and everything. And I started to actually, before I got baptized, I started praying to God, and I was like, you know, God, I want your Holy Spirit to dwell inside of me. And I started to keep asking God that. And eventually I started to feel the Holy Spirit just live inside of me after my baptism. And everything has just been like, you know, great ever since then. Like, and I'm just grateful that I did choose to follow God, because the way that I was going before, like, I was hurting myself. Like, I really was. So I really wanted to tell this message, and I know it's like really long overdue, but I believe right now is the right time. I really wanted to share this message so that if you're going through anything, or even if you're going through things and you need God's help, God knows your heart. He knows, and I'm not saying that like in a way so you could take advantage, but when you want to walk towards God, He knows what your heart is desiring at that moment. If you want God to help you, there's not a huge, ridiculous prayer to pray. I only said 3 words. and God helped me at that time. So come to God humbly, come to God wholeheartedly, and he's going to do the rest for you. Like, he's going to help you with your journey. He's going to help you. He wants to help you. He's waiting on you to walk with him. And you don't want to go in that eternal torment that it talks about in Matthew. You don't want to go through that. Or I think it's in Matthew, with the rich man and the poor man. Like, you don't want to go through that situation. You don't want to deal with eternal torment. You don't want to go to hell. Like, you don't want to go through that pain. That pain is nothing like pain on earth. Like, it feels nothing like that. So I really wanted to talk about this, and I really hope this helps everybody who it can help. I pray that it helps a lot of people, and even people who are questioning or they don't know which way to go. Literally just pray to God and use your wisdom and ask God for wisdom and be wise with things as well. And God's going to carry you. He carries his chosen people. And that's really all I want to say. So make sure you guys like this video, share it to anybody who you think will need to hear it or wants to hear it. And that's all. I hope y'all have a good day. Bye.